Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the future of gaming, something that's developing before our very own eyes, VR. This is something that perhaps is like the beginning of the cell phone, where the cell phone started as this really clunky device and it has now morphed into the smartphone all these years later. And maybe that's what's happening with VR as well. And who knows where it will be when all of us, who for me personally, I'm 22, where will it be when I'm 35, or will it be when I'm 50? I really think that this is going to be a big thing in gaming, and I think Valve understands this. So we see games like Half-Life Alyx were just revealed within the past month or so, and this is one of the most popular franchises in gaming. We've all heard the funny jokes with Half-Life 3 confirmed. Well, we're kind of finally getting a version of that. Valve has been classic for only releasing Half-Life games when something big happens. Like from the old Half-Life, we're starting to see like 3D and like a 3D world within a game engine, and then with the Half-Life 2 and that series with the orange box, we start to see a physics engine. And then now here we go, all these years later, like what, 10 years later now, we're starting to see another attempt with the Half-Life entry with VR. So VR is something that I personally never cared about over the past many years. We see Oculus, we see the HTC Vive, all these types of things, and you see the games that people are playing. Some of them look fun. I see some of the everything's a legit first-person shooter now. Although like the shooter games, they look like a fun experience, but there's really not enough for me. And I think most of us can agree it kind of looked a little gimmicky. There were no flagship titles coming out for the system. Well, this is something Valve is looking to change, and personally, it has absolutely sold me on it. And that's kind of the point of this video, this is what is really selling me on VR. After watching the trailer for Half-Life Alyx, I feel like I have to get this thing in my hands, and when March comes around and Alyx launches, I want to be playing this on VR, and I really want to have that experience. And I think it's really cool because there's more than just that coming. We'll see all these leaks that are starting to happen, and like Valve News Network is starting to cover it. Left 4 Dead 3, or whatever the next Left 4 Dead game, is very real, and it is apparently being worked on internally to be a VR game. And you can tell me pretty much anything about VR, but nothing quite sells me on it like new Valve games. And having a Left 4 Dead game that is apparently being worked on for VR, and having a Half-Life game that is shipping soon, it is exactly what's going to get me to purchase this. And so when we talk about VR, we do see that there is quite a price point for it, and understand that it is not cheap. As you see, it's multiple hundreds of dollars. And specifically, if you really want to have, like, you'll see some YouTubers talk about the best VRs, the Steam or the Valve Index is like the reigning supreme. It's at the top, and it has a price point of $1,000 US. And I'm not someone to just throw around $1,000 on something like that, but you put Half-Life and you put Left 4 Dead behind it, and I am a content creator, so I see the possibilities, and yeah, you know what, I kind of want to give it a shot. And I don't see myself personally buying one of the lower end options. I want to go all the way up to the high refresh rate. I want the Valve Index, and this is what's selling me on it, and it's the future of gaming, I believe, as we know it. So there's another thing I want to talk about in this world, and that is the nature of competitive games. So when you see VR and you see the shooter games, I forget what the special one is that most people seem to play, but we've seen it in like funny video compilations and some like cool Twitch things. You'll see people playing this like shooter game. It looks like Counter-Strike, but it's VR. I guess that's the best way to put it. It looks like a lot of fun, and that's where it's at right now. That's all it is. It's really kind of like gimmicky fun, and if you're playing with friends, like there are some really funny things that happen, but it's not competitive. And I think that's going to be a key word going into the future that's going to change eventually. I think VR absolutely will catch on. It's going to get cheaper and cheaper, obviously, as technology does. What's that called? Is that Moore's Law? I forget which law it is, but like, technology gets so much cheaper every like 2 years or whatever the saying is. And VR is going to get a lot cheaper as the years come on. And I think people will get into this, and competitive will be a staple. I think people will absolutely start to play this for competitive reasons. And that's what really gets attractive to me as a player. When I play video games, I rarely play them casually. I really only want to play to have a competitive experience. It's kind of like a sport for me. I kind of stopped playing sports like my last year. No, I still play baseball in high school, but I used to play every single sport I could, but then I stopped as time went on, and I was down to just playing baseball, which was my favorite because video games took up the rest of the sports in my life. I was playing Call of Duty, Overwatch, trying to get into Counter-Strike. I was playing those, and that was taking up my competitive niche, and that's exactly what's going to sell me for real on VR going into the future. I think a lot of people would absolutely love to have a competitive VR experience, whether it be, you know, Beat Saber 1v1s or something, you know, like a Guitar Hero battle, but with Beat Saber. Beat Saber seems to be one of the popular titles people cling on to, but also going into the future will hold battle royales with actually 100 people in VR, or actual Overwatch 6v6, which that game seems hard to do VR. And then there's the classic Call of Duty and the Counter-Strike type games, which people will absolutely move to in a competitive way. You'll have a rank. You'll have everything that you understand and know from a competitive game. And that's what's really exciting to me. So not only are we getting some of these massive Valve releases, we're starting to see these really cool shooter games have the roots that are potential for a competitive nature going forward. And now it's just up to the player base to really adapt to it and start to take on VR and purchase it. And that's up to more VR creators and the technology getting cheaper. And I think this is really cool stuff to look forward to. And I think the future of gaming is going to be really exciting, because I already think that I feel lucky to be able to play on a PC like the one I have right now and play games at really high frame rates with I might have 240 hertz monitor in front of me. I feel lucky enough to be able to play first-person shooters like that. I can't imagine what games are going to be like in 20 years, whether it's all completely VR or, you know, maybe the in-game is just going to get all better and latency is going to be near perfect. I think it's going to be really cool. And I have to say, very, very, very excited for the Index and for Alex coming soon. And you'll see, and I just want to close on this one last thing, you'll see other games coming out that are actually starting to look like great titles, not just made by, you know, the Half-Life and Left 4 Dead creators that we all know and love, but you'll see games like Boneworks that just hit the Steam store, and it looks phenomenal. And it's just a really good time to look at games and being like, wow, the future is coming fast, and we can see these things growing right in front of us. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm curious if any of you are getting into VR, or it's at least getting your eye on it. And have a good night, guys. See ya.